We are back. I am joined by my man, Bradley. Dude, I am so excited to have you on. We always have amazing conversations. So real quick, you just kind of want to introduce yourself, name of the company, all that good stuff before we get into your story and everything.
Yeah, sure. Just do me a favor though. Don't set your expectations too high. I like managing expectations is a big part of our job. You know that, right? So
It is
like
true.
super low expectations, and then whatever we talk about is going to end up being a grand slam.
That's true. Guys, this is going to be horrible. This is going to be the worst one yet. And
go.
now,
my man,
be blown away.
So my name is Brad Ellison. I am founder, co-owner of Ellison Painting. This is a business that I started with my wife April of this year. So April 22nd was the date of our very first sale. And as of date of recording today, it's July 11th. So what's that, 2.5 months or so?
Something like that.
We are located in Metro Detroit, Michigan. We deal with all subcontractors at this point, no employees. Mostly residential, a little bit of commercial if we come across it. But again, we've only been doing everything for 2.5 months. So there's not a whole lot of data or experience yet. But as you know, Eric, my background for the past 5 years has been in the residential painting industry. I managed one of Metro Detroit's biggest companies before we left and started our own.
Yes. So actually, this is a good question. I don't know if we can talk about this, but if we can, I'd love to touch on that story a little bit because I've only been in business for 2.5 months, but you got a ton of experience doing this, right? Mm-hmm. You have a background in this, and I feel like your story of how you got here is very interesting. So I don't know if you can touch on it. Are you allowed?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. You want to just kind of share your story of what you were doing before, how you got here?
Yeah. Well, even before the painting industry, so six or 7 years ago, when we get married, babe, 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My wife, for the listeners, are just sitting on the other side of this, my partner in crime. Yes. So right after we got married, we kind of had it with working for other people. And she had been working for her dad, which was an awesome situation. Her dad is like the most phenomenal man, very successful, but he works in the automotive industry. And I was in various sales roles, whatever, throughout my career. When we got married, we actually decided to quit our jobs and start a health insurance agency. My background was in insurance and financial services, and a bunch of my old friends were making all this money selling essentially Obamacare policies. So we saw this opportunity. We're like, we don't have any kids. We're just getting started. Our financial obligations are not that great. Mm-hmm. I sold my house to move in with my wife. And so we had a little bit of seed money. So we're like, let's just do it. So we quit our jobs, started a health insurance agency. Our health insurance business actually is still rolling today. It's kind of passive at this point, but Rachel manages that 100%.
Which now. I just found out, by the way, like a few weeks ago, that you guys still had part of that. That I didn't realize.
Bro,
I didn't even realize.
Thank God. I mean, it's such a, for the amount of work that she has to put in and the amount of money she makes, it's
probably crazy.
Bro, it's so great. Yeah. So we started that business, but if you know anything about the insurance industry, especially on the Obamacare side, we operate within what's called an enrollment period. So when we started, it was a 3-month enrollment period, which means you can sell policies within that 3 months, and the other 9 months, there's almost nothing to do. Right. And so we had a great first year. We spent some money in marketing. We built a decent sized book of business, but then at the end of it, it was January 15th. And I'm saying, what am I going to do for the rest of the year? I mean, we can sit around or we can travel, but we had gotten pregnant almost immediately after the wedding. 2 months after the wedding, we got pregnant. Okay. And so we're like, we should probably not only work 3 months a year. Let's try to make more money. So I started looking for seasonal sales jobs, and I ran into a guy from church who owned a painting company, and he was looking for someone to not only work for his painting company in sales, but also to eventually buy the company, which is great for us. We're entrepreneurs. I'm happy. I'll be as great a salesman he ever had, and then if we have the opportunity to buy it down the road, even better. So I met him on a Sunday. He hired me on a Tuesday. He hired my wife basically later that week to also do sales. And we just all of a sudden found ourselves in the painting industry with no experience, no knowledge, but, certain skill set that lends itself to picking things up and doing well. Yeah. And I fell in love with the industry almost immediately. It's sales are fun. Seeing the transformation in people's homes, that's exciting. And so I really took to it very quickly. Fast forward, a few years, it was time to start talking about the purchase of the business, and we kind of went back and forth and came to an agreement. We signed our purchase agreement a couple of years ago, and over the last couple of years, what happened? COVID hit. The weather in Michigan last year was historically bad. We had like 55 rain days, and for a number of reasons, the value of the business just wasn't, what we needed it to be and what it was. Yeah, when we signed the agreement, and so we tried to renegotiate. Things didn't go well. Things between me and my old partner kind of fell apart, sadly, and so we made the very difficult decision to leave, not buy that company, and start from scratch. And so here we are. And that was, it happened very, very quickly. We scrambled, and fortunately we had some cash socked away to give us a really good chance and head start when we started the company. And it's proven to be a success so far.
Yeah. I think it's so cool that, for the longest time, actually, when you and I were first connecting online, like based on how you just interacted and everything, I'm pretty sure everybody would think you were just like the company owner, right?
Yeah. And that's how we operated. We essentially, for the last couple of years, I was a 50-50 partner in that business. Now, I didn't actually own any equity, but that's how we operated. I was the CEO. I was making all of the decisions, hiring, firing, sales, marketing, everything, all strategic decisions. And then we basically just paid ourselves the same salary and then split the profits 50-50. And he was fine with me billing myself as the co-owner, because that's what I was. And especially because we had that signed agreement. And then of course, but on paper I wasn't, which is why we ended up leaving.
Right. Yeah. But I think it's cool because, at least, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like an observation I made was throughout that period, you got very involved with the painting community as well. You fell in love with it, just like I did. Very similar to myself. It was like, as soon as I was engulfed in it, I was like, I love this. I love the people. I have to imagine not only your experience, but all the connections you had was just the biggest leg up when you went out on your own.
I would say, and I've said this publicly, and I've said it in thousands of private conversations, probably, I feel like no one could have a better chance at building a successful painting contracting business. No one's going to have a better chance than me and my wife. With the experience that I had, with the connections that I made at the top level of the industry, with my sales background, and quite frankly, Eric, with the money that we had.
Yeah.
Most painting companies start because the guy is a painter and he's got a van and he's got some tools, and that's it. He's got no money.
Or his dad did it and he took over that company.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And we had the opposite. As you know, kind of famously, I'm not a painter. I've never painted a day in my life, but we had money. So we really came out swinging for the fences. We hired marketing agencies, and we've invested a lot of time into recruiting, and we had a lot of things going for us to allow us to come out swinging. In our first month, I think I sold $150,000 worth of paint jobs.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Right. So we're already at like a $1.8 million run rate as far as sales anyway.
Yeah.
In the first month. Production is slowly catching up to that. We've been really, really blessed to find some really great crews. More crews are coming out and reaching out to us every day. I got another interview with a big crew tomorrow. And then it's just a constant battle of, what do we need more of? Do we need more sales? Do we need more crews? And making sure that we're managing that responsibly.
So 2.5 months in, if you're willing to share, how much have we sold in the first 2.5 months?
We're at about 400,000, I think.
That's crazy. I can only imagine the mind's just like being blown right now.
Yeah.
I want to dive.
That was nothing. My company is brand new. We didn't have any web presence. We had nothing. What we have is we have a large circle of influence. I think my wife and I are like, just kind of like, this sounds so conceited, but good people, right? I think people like us. And so people, when we launched our company, they're like, oh my gosh, how can we help Brad and Rachel? Who can we refer? And so we got a ton of referral business right away before we even had a website, before we had any lead generators going. And that allowed us to confidently recruit crews to start working while our Facebook ads and our Google ads and our door hanger campaigns were still being built. And now it's, transitioned. It's more paid leads that I'm selling, and less kind of word of mouth from our friends and family. But now we're also seeing referral business from jobs that we've completed. So
Amazing. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think that is well, don't get me wrong, on the marketing side, I like to always talk about paid channels and all that sort of
Mhm.
stuff. Like word of mouth and good reputation and all of that is a very real thing. It's a huge part of most painting companies. And I was always making the joke at like Corey's event, like you and Rachel are the definition of a power couple. Like,
Oh,
so
nice.
I absolutely believe it that a lot of business came your way because you guys are just genuinely good people. They see an amazing family out there
Mm.
serving the community and they want to be a part of it. Right.
Yeah,
Um,
that's nice.
dude,
Thank you.
oh yeah, of course. One thing I'm super curious on, and I don't even know this about your story. At a certain point, didn't you own or like work in a marketing company too?
Yeah, I didn't own it, but when I transitioned out of the life insurance industry, I found myself working at a local marketing agency. Now we did B2B marketing, focused a lot on manufacturing companies, and I was hired as a sales guy, and I eventually became the sales director. But the owner of that company was not involved in the day to day, and so really it fell on me to develop strategy, develop leads, and then ultimately help implement the marketing strategy that I was selling to our customers. So that's been super helpful because I understand the lingo. I don't understand the mechanics. I don't know how
Sure.
you set up a lead or a lead generator through Facebook. Don't know. I'm not great with Photoshop or Illustrator, whatever programs you guys use to create the leads, but I understand the strategy. So that's been fun too. It allows me to have really cool conversations with you and guys like Ryan Davis and Brandon Pierpont and other guys. So I understand the strategy, but I have no knowledge of like how to actually make it work. So thank God for guys like you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Like I
Yeah.
think that's the only part in a lot of ways guys like you need to understand, right? Probably not
Mhm.
even to the level you understand it, but that's what I'm always saying to a lot of people out there, like a lot of painters and everything is you need to understand, you don't need to understand all the buttons that get clicked in the background,
Mhm.
but you do need to understand a high level of like, why is this wording making a customer feel this way? Why does this do this? Right.
Mhm.
The high level of it, because all that translates over into sales, into recruiting, into other areas of the
Mhm.
business, and you can vet your marketers a little bit better. You can have some of that input with your brand and your look and feel of it and all that stuff.
Though I'd imagine that someone with my knowledge of marketing is probably pretty annoying to guys like you when I say, "Hey, man, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way." And you're like, "Well, yeah, but our other customers do it." I'm like, "Yeah, that's all right. I want to do it this other way." And technically, we're paying your bill, so.
No, it makes it, I will say sometimes it can be annoying
Yeah,
when you have the person that doesn't understand that, doesn't
yeah,
understand the lingo in some of it, but tries to be that person. When
yeah.
you have somebody that understands the lingo and the strategy and then can adapt that to their brand and
Mhm.
everything as a sophisticated business owner, no, you're a dream client for us. I mean, that makes it a
Yeah.
lot of fun. That
Well, I
just
think
makes
the
it a
the
lot
the
of fun.
important part is that I try to be self-aware enough to know that like I know a little bit, but I'm not an expert. You're the expert. And so I'm going to give you my feedback and say, "Hey, I'd like to try it this way instead of that way." And if it's just a terrible idea and you say, "Yo, Brad, that's a terrible idea," then I'll be like, "Okay, you're the expert." And then I'll just do what you say, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're the person with a little bit of interior design experience painting their house,
Mhm.
but you're not the color consultant or the painter.
Right. Right.
Yeah, no, I
Yep.
get that. That's cool. Okay, so walk me through a little bit. Let's go sales process first because you
Okay.
have a very unique sales process. I mean, it's not that crazy unique, but it's different than what I feel like a true like purebred salesperson that came from sales industries, that came
Mhm.
from life insurance sales. I feel like it's different. So I want to touch on that and like the difference you've seen between like referrals and paid leads as you started, but like
Yeah.
walk us through like the sales process, how you go about this because it's a little
Okay.
different.
So first off, like I will say, like I love sales. Like in general, I love sales. I love the opportunity that salespeople have to make money and like set their
Yes.
own schedule. The actual sale, when we think of sale, like sitting down, talking someone into buying something, that's what people think of sales. That's the part that I absolutely hate. So I built my sales system to reflect what I hate and what I love, and I think it's proven to be very successful. Um, so yeah, so to answer your question, here's what happens. We have leads coming, whether they're word of mouth, Facebook leads, Google leads, whatever. They come in. We use drip jobs, as you know, and so we may have an initial conversation. Hey, Rick, can you tell me a little bit about just what are you looking for? And then once we get that information, you say, okay, great. If you haven't already got that link, I'm going to send you a link. You can go on, submit the estimate request form. Once I see it come through my system, I will schedule it. You'll get a confirmation, and I'll see you on this date and time. Mm-hmm. Then we just wait for it to come through. Once we get that and confirm it, as you know, Drip Jobs sends them, confirmation. I include a link with my workers' comp, liability coverage, everything up front.
Nice.
After that, the most valuable thing I do is just show up. It's crazy, the low bar that is in our industry set by some other painters. And I know guys like you, guys like Tanner, there's a lot of us who are trying to elevate the industry, but really like showing up on time is like already that's a single already. Yeah.
You showed up on time and you look clean and professional. You're ahead of most of the competition.
That's right. And I make you don't park in their driveway to block their car in. And my truck is all decaled with Ellison painting. It looks really, really professional. So I park in such a way that when they open the front door, they see my truck that looks beautiful. Yep. When I'm on site, it's really, really simple. I say, hey, I'm Brad. I'm here, Brad Ellison with Ellison Painting. Do you have a minute to walk around and show me your project? And so I do have them come outside, walk around the full house. I just say, give me a rundown on what you're looking for. And they start talking. And I ask questions like, when was the last time you had it painted? Do you recall? Have you noticed any wood rot around the house? Are you thinking about keeping it 2 colors or transitioning to 1? Are you going to paint the entry doors? Have you considered this? Have you considered that? And it's just a 5 to 10 minute conversation as we walk around, and I'm pointing out issues that they maybe already noticed, maybe they didn't, and kind of just establishing some rapport and proving that I know what I'm talking about and that I've done this before. After we get back to their front door, I say, all right, well, this project is pretty straightforward as far as I'm concerned. I know it's a big project for you, but this is the type of stuff we do every day.
That confidence.
Yep. That's right. Yep. So honestly, I'm all set. If you want to go inside, I'll take it from here. What I'm going to do is start here at the front of the house and do a couple laps around. I'm going to get a ton of pictures. I'm going to take a bunch of notes, but it's really only going to take me about 5 or 10 minutes. And once I'm done there, I'm just going to take off. By the end of tonight, usually after my kids go to bed, we value our family time. I will piece together your estimate, and I will email you the estimate along with the link to all the pictures and notes I took. I'm about to take here at your project. I'm not going to do a sales pitch. So, I'm not going to come back and knock on your door and talk to you for an hour and convince you to use us. I'm not going to do it. I'll just email everything to you. And then of course, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach back out either via email or phone. Now, before you go back inside, do you have any other questions for me right now? And then, well, yeah, sure. What type of paint do you use? Do you power wash? Do you caulk? Whatever. And then that's it. They go inside, and it literally takes me 5 or 10 minutes to get all the pictures and notes I need. If I look at the math, I've probably done 8,000 estimates over the past 6 years, right? So it doesn't take long to walk around a house, take my notes, count up the number of windows and doors, all that, and then I can get out of there. And then that's really it. I mean, by the end of the night, I will have pieced everything together in Drip Jobs. I email them the estimate with a link to our company cam timeline for their house, which I really love Company Cam, by the way, because that link stays live. And so every time me or Rachel goes out for a site visit, we just take more pictures and they can follow as the work progresses. And now I have tons of marketing collateral too. Right. I mean, by the end of the project, I might have 50 pictures of every house that we complete that can be used for marketing purposes.
Absolutely.
And that's it. And so I email it and set it and forget it. The drips go out and they either respond or they don't. And I'm closing. I mean, if you look at the math, I close about 35% of the estimates I do. And my goal is to do 6 to 8 estimates a day. So it's high volume. I'm doing way more estimates than a lot of other companies, but I love
it's a shorter time duration too. You're only there 15 minutes.
15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, you told me the other day you've had some days where you do like 10 or something. And I'm like, what? Like most people I know can do 5 or 6 in a day.
Yeah, I've done 12 estimates in a day. Now it sucks having to piece them all together at the end of the night, because then I am spending a couple hours to piece them all together and email them out. But also, if I before we logged on to this call, I had 30 minutes, and so I sent out the 3 estimates that I went out to today. They're already done. Right?
Crazy.
Yeah. So even without selling per se, I'm closing 1 out of 3, sometimes more. My average job size is exactly what I want it to be. It's even higher than it was at my last company, and my crews are happy. Rachel's happy with the jobs I'm selling. I'm happy, and I could sell more. I could sell a higher percentage if I sat down and did like a pitch and a close. I just don't like doing it, man. Right? if guys like you are producing results for me and generating leads for me to do 6 to 8 estimates a day, then I get to keep doing it the way that I like to do it. And I think that my customers really, really appreciate it. I think some jobs I would lose if I tried to pitch it. And I think a lot of jobs I win because I didn't. Right?
Yep.
Very low pressure, very professional. And then they say yes if they want to hire us.
I think that's the key. I mean, this is something I talk about a lot, is getting a sales, like your sales process has to fit your style, right? In a lot of ways. Like great example, when I was learning sales, like for the marketing company, I hated the whole, like, it's this, but today only, it's this. I hated it so much. And I was trying to do it because that's what everybody said. And like, I couldn't sell anything for the first several months. And then I finally found a coach who, like, his style resonated a lot more with me, where it was not that at all. It was not this high pressure, today only, this is the price close. And then it resonated with me. I made it my own, and it took off. Like, I think that's one of the most important things. And you and I were talking about this the other day, because you're 100% right. You're still selling. Like, for maybe some people listening that didn't catch a few of those things, like there was moments where Bradley added credibility, right? He made it personable by saying, like, where was the takeaway, right? To take the pressure off. I'm not going to do a sales pitch. Yeah. Like, I absolutely love that. It takes all the pressure off. It acknowledges the elephant in the room. I think you told me the other day, you make sure to mention after you put your kids to bed, so they know you're a family owned, family oriented company, and you value that. It's selling without selling, right?
Sure. And all of our marketing leading up to the point that I'm actually out to an estimate, they've already seen a picture of me and Rachel and the kids, and they've already read our little bio that we include on everything. And I mean, that's part of it. It's all the setup. And I think one of my strengths in sales, and this is something I've been thinking about recently, is I don't think I'm like some super great sales guy, but I think what I'm really in tune on, I think I have discernment. When customer asks a question, I can immediately figure out what they're really asking. What's the need behind the need, right? And so a lot of guys will jump on customers' questions and cut them off and start answering. Early. Yeah, and you're like, well, and I've stood next to other painters on estimates who are doing that, right? And or as I'm training sales guys, they jump in. Now, let them ask the question, and then I think intrinsically, this isn't even like a training thing. I think I'm just very skilled at understanding exactly what they're asking, the need behind the need, what the real question is. And that puts people at ease, knowing and trust that I am listening and that I am going to get them the end result that they ultimately want, right?
And a lot of times, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're probably also, they ask you a question, right? There's probably several times where you're going to ask them another 2 questions before you answer theirs to make sure you really did understand the reason behind the question.
Of course.
Right?
Clarifying questions. Yeah.
Yes. That is such a huge point. It's probably one of the most common things talked about on the coaching calls we run in terms of sales, in terms of our own internal sales training, something what we call, like, the terminology for it, chunking down, right? Asking clarifying questions, digging a little bit deeper, right? Finding out exactly that, like, what is the need behind it. It can absolutely be taught. I've taught it to tons of people, you know, being that curious little kid that's like always asking more questions, figuring out the real reason why, not just assuming. But if you have that natural instinct for that, like, oh my God, yeah, I think it's one of the most important skills, seeking to understand before seeking to be understood. Right.
Sure.
Like, huge.
Yeah, you get it better than anyone.
That's awesome, dude. I love it. Okay. So I want to dive into the marketing stuff. I want to touch on your experience with some of this. I know, like, we've talked a little bit about it, but when you came to me, you were like, Eric, we're starting this thing. I got this capital set aside. You're like, I'm still not a believer in Facebook. I don't even think this is going to work, but I've known you. This is what you do. Like, I want to hear your experience. Are you a believer now? What's it been like? What's the difference between paid versus referrals been? I'm super curious.
Yeah, so we met in person at the expo, right? I came to talk to you, and we had already connected through the Facebook group and all that, so we knew who each other were. I knew what you did, you knew what I did, but at that time I was still with my old company, and I remember
telling you You look just as fit in person as you did online at the CrossFit pictures.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. You know my love language. Yeah. So, I believe in being very frank with people that I know and respect. And I told you, like, hey, I don't really think Facebook leads work. I don't want to use them. I think they're lower quality. My customers, we serve an upper income clientele. I don't want to serve people that are looking for discounted pricing.
Yep.
And but ultimately, when push came to shove, and I started my company, at the old company, we didn't need the leads. We were spending money in other areas. We were getting leads. We never spent a dime on Facebook ads. When I start my own company, I got to have leads, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I guess I better talk to Eric and take a shot here. And the reality is, even though I wasn't a believer in Facebook leads, I was a believer in you.
Yeah.
Right. In spite of your terrible spelling and sometimes your bad grammar, which you're a smart man. You hired people that are better than that, better at that than you to take care of. You in watching these interviews you've done with other customers and interacting with you personally, I'm a believer in Eric, right? And so, hey, if I need leads and Facebook ads are one way that I can generate leads, I'm gonna give Eric a shot. And so I gave you a shot. And the reality is, looking back now I think we just started our third month, right?
Yep.
In the first 2 months, I think I spent whatever, $6,000 through you, and generated, well, last time I checked, it was $85,000 worth of revenue just from Facebook. Now, some of that is like people's, the source of the lead, they chose Facebook because they saw someone mention my name, but I will still give credit to Pathfinder for all that, because you guys helped me create my Facebook presence. Sure. And even since then, I think I've sold more jobs since that conversation just at the end of last week, right?
Yeah.
So all told, whatever, $95,000, $100,000 in 2 months. So I am a believer in what you do for sure. Now, there is a noticeable difference to me in Facebook leads versus door hanger leads, which I love my door hanger leads.
Absolutely.
Bro.
Huge.
They are exclusive leads. They are people that they're calling Ellison Painting because they saw the picture of me and Rachel and the kids on there. It's a different type of lead. But my closing rate is pretty similar in both. You guys have just generated a higher quantity of leads for us, and that's been really valuable, especially as I start. And so I think that we are going to continue to use Facebook leads as part of our marketing strategy moving forward. I'm glad. Well, I converted you partly too, because I'm glad you took my advice. I really wanted to run the campaign.
Yeah, that was fun. It's been doing well.
Yeah, and that's performed as good or better than the 15% off campaign. So, yeah, man. I mean, you proved yourself right. I don't think you proved me wrong, because I came in with an open mind. So listen, I'm skeptical. I'm not saying it won't work. I'm a bit skeptical, but you proved the value that you said you were going to provide. So I've been super happy. I don't know that I know that I would not have gotten off at such a quick start if it wasn't for you and your team getting me launched.
That means the world. It does.
Yeah.
I think it's I think what you said is very valuable too, where even though you came in skeptical about Facebook, you did come in with an open mind. Like you didn't question anything. Even though you had all this experience and all this stuff, and you've done this a bajillion times, you didn't question anything. You're like, this is how Eric says to follow up with leads. That's what we're going to do. This is how Eric says this is the system works. That's how we're going to do it. What I see the complete opposite, and where people often struggle with this, is they come in skeptical, but they can't open up their mind. And they have that clouded judgment the whole time. So they never actually give it their full effort. or they come in going, I've built a $3 million company, been doing this for the last 15 years. And they can't adapt to something new. They can't change up their process a little bit to make it work. And I think it's so valuable that you were able to come in and do that. And probably part of the reason, you just saw success almost instantly. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Well, again, I know that I'm smart enough to know that I'm not that smart. So if you had proven success, you got a ton of customers that have had proven success. I'm rubbing elbows with the top guys in the industry, and they've all had success doing it. I said, all right, make me a believer. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Elite is a lead ultimately. If I have an opportunity to sell a painting job, I'm going to close it 1 out of 3 times.
Yeah. Amazing. Talk about that a little bit, because you said your close rate is the same on both. And typically what we actually see is door hangers are we often see door hanger like similar to word of mouth. Like the conversion rate from door hanger to call is often less, but obviously it's higher intense, usually very high quality. You said your close rate is very similar on those versus some of your other channels. Like I have to imagine it's a little different. Your sales process changes slightly. Like, does it? Walk through that a little.
The sales process itself, honestly, it doesn't really change that much. I mean, the differences that we're seeing, I would say the closing rate is close, maybe within a few percentage points. Sure. Right now, it's off the charts with word of mouth and personal referrals. Of course, I'm closing like 80% of those, right? But when it comes to paid channels, I would say that the door hangers, Google, Facebook, it's all pretty close. The difference that I do see is a higher average job size with door hangers. Now, part of that makes a lot of logical sense, because with Facebook, we're targeting geographical areas, and you got these radiuses or whatever, and you're hitting a lot of people, a lot more people. With the door hanger, I mean, I'm targeting specific neighborhoods. Yeah, and I'm targeting neighborhoods where the houses are big and people have a lot of money, and the projects are just going to be bigger. So if I sell a job through Facebook in Madison Heights, which is a smaller, lower middle income class here, it might be a $3,000 exterior. Well, if I sell a door hanger lead in Birmingham, which is like ritzy area, it's going to be $12,000. So of course, the average job size where I'm doing door hangers is going to be higher. But it doesn't mean that they are more profitable as far as percentage, right? Sure. It'll take me 4 $3,000 jobs. I can do that 4 $3,000 jobs in the same time it's going to take me to do one 12,000. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can get that specific too, just for people listening, you can get that same level of specific with like Facebook and Google and some of these other platforms. Mm-hmm. It just always doesn't make sense quite at scale, right? You need volume. Like we can't take this all the way down, where sometimes you can use a door hanger campaign supplement, get all the way down like that, which is just genius the way you did it. So
yeah, well, it's genius, but again, it wasn't my idea. I just took what Jason Paris and his team does. he literally, listen, I don't lie. Jason Paris, his team sent me their door hangers, and I got Jason's permission to literally copy everything. Now, I didn't use his pictures, but I used the layout, and so where his picture is, I changed it a little bit. Instead of a picture of just me, I did a picture of my wife and family. But my bio, Jason says, Jason grew up in Minneapolis and went to the University of Minnesota. Brad grew up in Royal Oak and went to Oakland University. Jason always dreamed about starting his own company when he was in college, and so he started a company to pay his tuition. Brad always dreamed about owning his own company. So when he was in college, he started his first window washing company. It's like literally, I got to change the words to make it so that it's real for me, right? Yeah. But I didn't have to recreate the strategy or the system. I just took what's already working from a guy that's way smarter than me and a company that's way bigger, and just applied it here. So that I'm door hangers, bro. Door hangers where it's at.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Door hangers work, direct mailers work. Really all marketing works if done correctly, right?
Done right.
I think it's a big misconception out there. Radio ads work, TV ads work. It all works if done correctly. So dude, what would you say? I got a couple other questions. I don't want to take up too much of your time. What would you say is like the number one thing, like out of the gate, obviously the situation you had with capital set aside, all your previous experience from all those years of experience, all the factors that came together, what do you feel like was the number one thing, like mindset wise, tactically, whatever, that like really helped you like see the success you've seen just in general?
Yeah. I would say one of the biggest strengths that Rachel and I have is, and probably more me than her, because she's way more risk averse than I am. I'm willing to risk everything. Like even with our family, I got my wife, I got my beautiful wife, I got my 2 kids, I got my dog, I got this house that I got to pay for. I was willing to risk every dollar that we had to start our business. Yeah. Right. Because I firmly believe like no one's going to have a better chance at succeeding in this position than Rachel and I. Yeah. So part of it is our willingness to, and thank God that she trusts me so much, because she said, listen, that this makes me nervous and I'm not going to sleep most nights. But if you really believe that this is going to work, then absolutely, I'm 100% on board. Which is why she also decided to come work with me too, because she believed in it, right? So that's part of it. A big part is being willing to, as we just talked about, being willing to listen to people that know more than me. And while ultimately the success of my business is going to come down to Rachel and we can't be successful without guys like you and Paris and Matt and Maggie Kuiper and the Elliots down in Indianapolis and Nick Slavic, all these guys who have invested time and knowledge in helping us succeed. I mean, when we started doing our marketing campaigns, we didn't have any before or after pictures, because guess what? We had never painted a house. And so the pictures that you used on our Facebook ads, they're Matt and Maggie Kuiper's.
We're still using them.
I know, and they're brilliant. They look like houses that we would have painted. And if someone asks, if someone ever asks, like, oh, did you paint that house? I'd be like, well, actually, when we started our company, we didn't have any before or afters. But I have so many friends in the industry, they actually sent us before or afters that we can use. And when we update the campaign, now we have our before and afters, right?
Yeah.
So that was part of it too. Just like the breadth of knowledge from the people that we know and trust, and for some reason love us and want us to succeed, has been really helpful. And the money didn't hurt either. Jason Paris has said millions of times that you're either going to spend your time or you're going to spend your money. And if you have the money to spend, then you can invest your time in other areas. And for me, that means I can do more estimates rather than knocking on doors to try to generate leads. I spend money to generate leads so I can do sales. I make the sales so that I can hand them off to Rachel for our crews to complete the work. And then because we have the money, that still allows me to get to the pool at the end of the day every once in a while with Rachel and the kids, right?
Yeah.
So it allows me to not invest the 70, 80 hours a week that a lot of guys have to invest to get things off the ground because they don't have the money.
Sure, they're bootstrapping. Right.
Yeah. We're very fortunate. And we're definitely blessed, but also, we're smart. We don't live beyond our means. We live below our means. And we were just socking money away, partly because we were planning on buying my old company. And I don't drive a fancy car. I have my work truck that says Ellison Painting, and that's the only vehicle I drive around. I'd love to get like a Porsche, but we were saving our money. So here we are.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I'm a big car guy at heart. So I feel that. All right. So to close this thing out, what advice would you give to somebody in the industry? Especially let's take the more common story. That person that maybe didn't come from as much experience, as fortunate of a spot, that common painter we often see that's bootstrapping this from the beginning. They're trying to figure it all out. They're starting to get involved a little bit. Like, what advice would you give to them to help them get where they want to be faster?
Well, this is kind of a complicated question because the answer is different based on what I believe are their skill sets, their abilities. If it's someone that started as a painter but has, some degree of natural business acumen, and they're willing to learn that piece, well, then the advice is pretty simple. Find people to do the stuff that you can't do well so that you can do what you do best. Right. And that might mean if a painter is an extremely good painter and trainer of other painters, but terrible at sales, then guess what? You're going to have to hire a sales guy and let that sales guy actually make you money. If you're not good at marketing, then hire Pathfinder Marketing or hire Service Legend or hire someone that can generate those leads for you so that you have business to bid, right? So I think that's the number one piece is like, be willing to risk it, be willing to hand responsibilities off, be willing to spend that money or risk that money in some cases to bring people on that don't have that same skill set. Now that's the answer for people that have the ability to own and run a painting company.
I like where this is going.
The hard truth, Eric, is that there are some guys that can't do it.
Yep.
And there is no shame in that. If they are great painters, then they can make a lot of money as a painter. And that's actually how I build my business, right? I identify guys who are great painters, and maybe it's them and their brother and a couple other guys. It's a 4-person team, but maybe English is their second language. They can't sell a job like I can simply because of the language barrier. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
They live in the US, and their English is not their first language, and it's difficult, right? But they're phenomenal painters, and they're super reliable, and they just want to work. Great. Come partner with Ellison Painting, and I will, if you're reliable and if you're high quality and you're efficient, I'm going to give you all the work you can handle, and you're going to make a lot of money doing that. And that's the reality. And I think there's a good opportunity with guys like that, with companies like mine, to build their business. If I can keep them busy, 2 or 4 guys busy, guess what? I could probably keep 8 guys busy for them too. And they can expand, break into 2 crews. I still have this phenomenal crew leader that is highly reliable and dependable and high quality work. And I can help them grow their business that way.
And now the only thing that person has to focus on is hiring and training painters
and that's our
producing
sales,
quality. That's it.
That's our sales pitch when we interview a possible sub crew is like, listen, you hate selling. You don't have the money to market. You don't want to chase customers around to collect your payment at the end. With Ellison Painting, all you got to do is show up and paint. Rachel is the project manager. She's going to handle all the communication with the customer. She's going to schedule the job. She's going to order the paint. She's going to be dropping by the job site to address any customer service issues. And she's going to be there on the last day to walk around with the customer, make sure everything is done to their standards, and then collect the money. But even if she doesn't collect her money in that final walkthrough, guess what? As soon as the job's done, the crew's getting paid.
Yep.
Can't be any easier. And that's our value prop to our subs is we are going to make your life so easy. You don't want to sell your own jobs. Why would you? Right. And I'm able to sell the jobs at such a high profit rate or such a high rate that they're oftentimes making more money doing our jobs as subs rather than had they sold the job themselves.
Wow. That's incredible.
I mean, these guys, maybe I should, and maybe I shouldn't tell you, but like some of our crews, like a 2-guy crew, they're averaging $600 to $700 per day each.
It's incredible.
Painting. Right. And that's not even
good money.
There's people hopefully that are listening to this that are like, man, I own the business and I'm not making $600 or $700 a day. Right. Well, that's the opportunity that we're providing for these guys. And that's why I feel so passionate about our model. I go back and forth with Tanner Mullen. He's all in the employee model, and I really like the subcontractor model. Whatever works. But I think we're proving that we can help people succeed and grow their businesses through this model beyond what I even hoped would be the case before we started in April. So we're just getting started, man.
I know.
We're just getting started. It's exciting.
It's crazy. Yeah, we didn't even touch on that much. You have a very interesting perspective on that. And we talk about it all the time on the coaching calls too. I think they both have their pros and cons, and they attract different types of people. You're attracting that person that wants to be a business owner, but doesn't want to figure out the sales and the marketing and that side of it. And very valid pitch. I've coached people on making that same pitch to other people in the area before.
Yeah.
So I get it. I think it's totally valid. And I like that you said it. I think that's the hard truth. A lot of people aren't often willing to say or admit in the industry. And you see it in all industries, right? You see it in the marketing side of it as well. You see it everywhere where there's a lot of people that like, they would be a much better number 2, number 3, number 4 somewhere else. They would make more money, be happier, have more free time, the whole 9 yards, going and being a number 2 or number 3, being a well-paid subcontractor, being head of production somewhere else, playing a different role in somebody else's company rather than trying to own their own. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I hope that it turns out. And I mentioned Jason Paris so much. He's been like my right hand. Jason's awesome.
He's been such a great sounding board. And I'm just trying to create Paris Painting 2.0 here in Michigan, right? But I'm hoping that I kind of evolved into what he is. He says it. He says he's a great business founder, and he's a terrible CEO. And ultimately, I hope to be someone's number 2 or number 3. I'll be the founder, and we'll find someone that can be a better CEO that has maybe better leadership qualities, and maybe I can find someone that to be a sales director that has better sales. I think I'm pretty good at sales, but there's probably someone better that I could pay to do it better than me. And then eventually I just work myself out of a job, and then I get to do what I want to do within the company or do something else. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But I don't think there's a greater opportunity to get to that point than the painting industry in the US in 2022.
Absolutely. Yes. Blue or red? I don't know. There's a lot of opportunity. It's a blank canvas. There's so much to take advantage of. So
yeah.
No, I love it. You touched on so much, dude. I appreciate you coming on. You got any last words for anybody?
Yeah, I just want to thank you again for the work that you've done to help Ellison Painting do so well, and just pimp you out, man. Because if you're listening to this and you haven't talked to Eric about maybe using his services, they're the real deal. And beyond the actual leads that they provide, when I can, I tune into those training calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's a lot of fun. They are constantly reaching out, seeing if there's anything else that they can do for us. Pathfinder is a real deal, man. I'm really, really proud of you for the company that you're building. And I'm looking forward to growing in this industry together for years and years and years to come, man.
I appreciate it. No, it genuinely means the world, especially coming from a guy like you. It absolutely means the world. So we've loved having you. It's been fun helping you grow and being a small part of the journey. So, and even if you don't want to talk about using our services, you just want to like talk shop about business stuff, hit me up. I always like a good combo.
Yeah.
So, but cool, dude. I appreciate you coming on, and yeah, we'll see you very soon.
All right, bro. Talk to you soon.
Cool.